is Circa Tonight, powered by SharpStack. Matt Brown and Steven Andrus getting you ready for Thursday night football between the Philadelphia Eagles and the New York Football Giants. Currently 7.5 out there in the market in favor of the Philadelphia Eagles, about a 40.5 total in this one. Our full thoughts on this one a little bit later in the show. But Steven, we have a Philadelphia Eagles team that has yet to reach their potential on the offensive side of the ball. And unfortunately for the New York Giants, you make the switch to your rookie quarterback and he loses his number one weapon, going to be without his number two weapon tonight as well. So searching for some answers there in New York.
Yeah, just headline thoughts for me is before we go in depth at the end of the show on Thursday Night Football. Number one, I think the Eagles are the team in the market that everybody has been most stubborn to get off of their priors. So it becomes a fascinating discussion about whether you want to get off your priors in this game or you want to stick with them against an opponent that I think we both agree, Matt, would be a big step down in class for the Eagles. And number two, what your opinion is to that question will really dictate how you'd be interested in betting on this game.
Yeah, it is. Again, 7.5, a really low 40.5 total, but no Malik Neighbors, no Darius Slayton tonight on the Giants side of things. Eagles offense hasn't really been able to get it going on the ground or through the air, as you've heard through the media. A.J. Brown will be the first to let you know about that. So we'll get into the full breakdown here a little bit later in the show, but we have another overseas game this week, Denver and the Jets, and this is sitting 7.5 right now in favor of the Broncos. 43.5 is the prevailing total here in this one. We look up, Steven, who'd have thunk it, but here we are, and the Jets, last winless team in the NFL right now. I would not listen. I didn't think they were going to be good, but I would not have guessed that they would be the last winless team in the NFL. This Denver team, couple plays away from maybe having a couple of other wins. Bo Nix still kind of fighting the good fight there for this team, but this defense is awesome.
They are elite. I think it's a very strong argument that they are back to being the best defense in the entire NFL. They are third in EPA per play allowed, first in success rate allowed. If you remove takeaways from every defense in the NFL, which can be kind of unpredictable week to week, then the Broncos are first in both of those advanced metrics. So kind of big picture looking at this game, if Patrick Surtain, the defending defensive player of the year, is going to shadow Garrett Wilson, then what do the Jets do? Because I don't know, especially if they get into a negative game state where you're going to require Justin Fields to try and get chunk plays against an elite defense. This, to me, has a couple of different angles, none of which are positive for the Jets, to be quite frank with you. I think it's a slam dunk teaser leg. The only kind of red flag is that it's an international game, but the Jets haven't really shown me enough. Even if we talk about the unlucky breaks they've had in terms of turnovers this year, the defense doesn't have a single takeaway this year. If we remove turnovers from all the defenses, you would think that would bump up the Jets ranking, but they go from 29th in EPA per play allowed to only 25th in EPA per play allowed as a defense if you remove all the turnovers. So I think it's a teaser leg for Denver. I think you might even want to play alts. If you're not into the teasers, you could take this out and sell some points and get better odds on the spread. I also think it's a pretty solid under here at 43.5, given that the Broncos want to run the ball, especially when they get into a positive game script. And the Jets really don't have much of an explosive passing game against an elite defense here. So I think naturally this tends to project as a lower scoring game.
Yeah, this one, like you said, I mean, teaser leg just jumps off the page. I know from a Survivor standpoint, and again, Steven is there at the Circa Sportsbook in Kentucky. I frequent the Circa Sportsbook here in Las Vegas, where the biggest legal sports betting contest in the world takes place. I know Denver's been mentioned at least a little bit, Steven, as far as Survivor goes. For me, one, you might have used Denver to get to be able to be here as it is anyway. So I don't know what the availability is for Denver is in a lot of these pools out there. And the other thing is, you mentioned it, while a solid favorite and should be able to handle this thing, international games are weird. International games are wonky. Weird things can go down and all of that. And so even though it's a solid touchdown plus favorite, I'm not going to be playing Denver this week.
Yeah, for sure. I want to bring up SharpStack real quick here and look at the odds board, because the reason I'm not playing them in Survivor this week is just, if you go scroll down on the odds screen here, and again, use promo code TNF Live to get 7 days free and 25% off if you want to check out SharpStack. So here's Denver right here this week against the Jets on that neutral field, 7.5. If we go down a little bit further to next week, the lines are already out for that game. And Denver is, if I can find it, wrong button. Sorry. Anyway, the Denver's back home against the New York Giants and Jackson Dart, and a 7.5 point favorite in that game. That's a much better spot for me in that one. But yeah, this tool lets you check out look ahead lines, lets you check out the current odds. I made some money off of the EV tool, just looking for some off-market stuff in college football markets yesterday. So this is a killer tool, not only for the NFL, but for other sports. But back to the Survivor discussion, Matt, I 100% agree with you. There's too many other good options here for me to worry about an international spot with Denver. And I think next week is a much better option for Denver being back home against the bottom 5 team.
Could this be one of the options this week, which is maybe off the beaten path here? It is the Cleveland Browns against the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is 5.5, 6 in favor of the Steelers. 38.5 is our prevailing total, though there's some 38s out there as well. Full disclosure, have a ticket in my account on this game on the Steelers. Really like this spot for them. Even though I hate the team, I don't like the Steelers team really at all. I don't like Aaron Rodgers at all. I don't like the kind of the fake numbers and all the stuff that have been there for this team, Steven. But this would be the first time in NFL history that a team will have played overseas and come back and played the very next week against a team coming off of a bye. So if you want to talk about the most ridiculous advantage that a team could possibly have, that's what you're looking at here with the Pittsburgh Steelers. They got to sit at home, watch Dylan Gabriel play, and then get them to come back across the pond and get them off of a bye. I laid it with the Steelers, even though I don't like this team at all.
Agreed. And you spelled it out perfectly for me. Now, it still doesn't make me comfortable laying this many points for the Steelers to win by margin. I was more conservative. Maybe I need to find my courage for this one, because everything you said is completely correct. It's just the low A dot for Aaron Rodgers, and the explosive plays have to be run after catch right now with the way the offense is set up. But I still want to play into this travel angle and this horrible spot on the schedule for the Cleveland Browns. So I went moneyline parlay with another game we'll talk about later. I think paired up with a couple other options, you can get just a straight moneyline parlay at plus money here, pretty close to even money. Mine was plus 102. I'll just let you know, and we'll talk about why later. It's with the Raiders against the worst team I've seen in the past 5 years, playing the Tennessee Titans. So I kind of hated both of those favorites, but I hated their opponents even more and what they're bringing to the table. So I didn't want them to cover big spreads, but combine them, take a little less risk on the spread, take plus money on them just to beat 2 bad offenses and a bad travel spot for the Cleveland Browns. So I was much more comfortable with that. I think it's a slam dunk spot for the Steelers in the schedule. I'd be shocked if they lose this game.
Yeah, it's a deal for me where, I might not bet the Steelers again the rest of the season. Like that's
right.
Like that's how much I dislike this team. And weirdly enough, I mean, I'm actually having a pretty tough time. I'm considering them in Survivor, because the other thing is not only will I not bet them again this year, like I don't know of another time that I'm going to feel comfortable playing them in Survivor either, right? Like it's a team I really, really dislike. They have a home game in week 11 against Cincinnati, but by then maybe Flacco's kind of figured out the offense. And I mean, he still has Jamar Chase and T Higgins and, Chase Brown and Mike Gesicki and all this stuff like that or whatever. And so, what looks like a slam dunk spot today might not necessarily be that in week 11. So I don't want to mess around, I don't think. And so full disclosure, I'm down to 3 of my 10 originals, three of my 10 originals. I think I'm going to play one of them on Pittsburgh. I've kind of taken the strategy of splitting my entries this year. I've always gone all in. I've never made it past week 7 with that strategy. So I think I'm going to split them up this week, and at least one of the entries is going to be on the Steelers because I don't know when I'm going to use them again.
For the pools like Circa that have a holiday schedule, or a pool where later in the season you have to pick 2 teams a week, or a pool where you can still rebuy if you lose this week, the Steelers should be on your radar because there's a lot of teams with future value this week that I still am hesitant to play because I want to have them in my back pocket. And you know what? If Dylan Gabriel beats you with, this awful historic travel disadvantage against a team at home coming off a bye, I think you just tip your cap to that. But if I'm in a pool where I only have to pick 1 per week, I would need to have multiple entries left in that pool because there's a lot of other really good slam dunk options this week. But, in your case with Circa or the other situations I talked about, I completely agree with you. It's a good option.
Steven, this just coming through. Jalen Carter not going to go tonight for the Eagles. So,
yeah, I suspected that. Midweek addition to the injury report. That's big. Very big.
Yeah, so that is certainly interesting. I mean, you can say what you want about the offense, but the defense has still played well for the Eagles, and so Jalen Carter
Pull SharpStack back up here and see what's happening with that news. So here, top of the line here, Eagles Giants, and we're still at 7 at Circa, juiced at 7 at some of the other books. Let's check back in on this later, Matt. I wouldn't be surprised if Giants money starts to come in here. I would.
I can tell you at a couple of the big national books, it's no longer 110 on the 7.5. It's like down to 104 at one of them. It's down to 105 at another. So people have come in and started scooping up some of those 7.5s on that news.
Yeah, there was already a suspect run defense for the Eagles. It's the one area of the defense where they've had a little bit of a problem. Think back to week 1 and how low we were on the Cowboys offensive line and rushing attack coming into that game. They've sustained it, but I still think not having Jalen Carter for getting ejected week 1 showed us how big of a deal that is to not have him out there.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, we'll check back in, but looks like there are some people firing on the sites out there that do have the hook still available for the New York Football Giants. Arizona Cardinals on the road at the Indianapolis Colts. This is currently about the same deal, about a 7.5 point spread in favor of the Colts at home. 46.5 to 47 is the prevailing total in this one. You got a banged up quarterback on the Arizona side of things, and you also have a banged up ego and everything else that you could possibly have for this team. Lose a game in the most spectacular fashion you can possibly lose a game. Tennessee Titans did not want to win that game. They sat there and tried every which way but loose to not take what was being handed to them. And yet the Arizona Cardinals figure out a way by dropping a ball before they get into the end zone, by taking a snap off of the face mask, by getting an interception, fumbling on your own accord, kicking the ball into the end zone, and then having the other team recover it for a touchdown. It was the most amazing sequence of events for an NFL team to lose a game. And Steven, I don't do a ton of the walk down narrative street stuff or whatever, but now you got to get on a plane and head out to Indy. One of the surprise teams of the NFL season so far, playing really, really good football. How in the hell do you recover from that? How do you put up an effort in this game? I mean, I can't believe I'm saying this. I'm buying into the fact that this is like this. They might sleepwalk through this game. They might get absolutely hammered in this thing.
Yeah, I am worried about that because just on the surface numbers, handicapping level, this is getting to very expensive. It was already expensive on the Colts last week. Now with people being down on the Cardinals after that wonky result last week and the Colts steamrolling another bad team again the week before, just for some perspective, the market only had these two teams about 2.5 points apart 2 weeks ago on a neutral field. And then last week they had them about 4.25 apart on a neutral field. And now the Colts are more than a touchdown favorite. So here's what's hard to quantify for me, Matt. Number one, Kyler Murray foot injury. He's missed 2 straight practices, Wednesday and Thursday. Don't know if he's going to play. And then on top of all the just potential narrative demoralizing defeat stuff, the coach went ballistic and acted like a child in front of everybody. And it was so bad that his bosses fined him $100,000. I don't think that's nothing, Matt. Like, I've worked 2 years in an NFL locker room, And let me tell you, like, I think it's important for people to remember that a lot of these locker rooms are guys who have fought and scratched and clawed to get to this dream level, sometimes to provide their families with generational wealth that they've never had before. And for Jonathan Gannon, who, it's a shame because he also came from nothing. He's not one of these Nepo babies in the NFL who have had their fathers give them opportunities. He's worked and scratched and clawed just like a lot of these guys in the locker room to get this opportunity to be a head coach. And he has a moment like that has the potential to cause a mutiny in the locker room, even if he apologizes, which he reportedly did. I mean, would you not be surprised if at least some portion of the locker room is like, F this guy after he did that?
Oh, for sure. And then you get the stuff this week as well, where because of the Kyler injury, you're asking Marvin Harrison what he thinks about Jacoby Brissett. And he was like, I'm excited if he gets the opportunity and like all this stuff like that. And I'm just kind of like, man, sometimes it's better to just say nothing at all, dude. Like, just like, don't say anything. Like, don't say you're excited for him to get the chance and all that. I mean, I don't know. Again, I hate buying into all this stuff. Again, perfect teaser leg. I mean, like, just absolutely perfect teaser leg. Take this thing down and I would, again, another one of those where I would be shocked if this Arizona team finds something and rallies after what we saw this past week. It just seems very unlikely to me.
Yeah. So if we want to, obviously it's hard for me to get all the stuff we just talked about out of our head, right? With the narrative stuff. But if we just take last week's result as an outlier and unlikely to happen again in the history of football, there was a preseason poll of a lot of bookmakers of what the difference is between a team starting quarterback and their backup quarterback against the spread. And that poll found that going from Kyler Murray to Jacoby Brissett was about a 4-point move. So if the market had these two teams about 4.25 apart on a neutral, and you go to Brissett, well, now we're at 8.25, and then maybe a point and a half for home field. Well, now we're getting to about where the market is right now. So I can't say going to Brissett would definitely be an overreaction if we're at 8.5 and 9 for this game, just based on where these teams were coming in to the shenanigans last week. I think this market move is just more about the Kyler injury and less about the narrative and shenanigan stuff of what happened in that game against the Titans. So I'm not sure there is value on the Cardinals. And I agree with you. I'd rather just lean back into the Colts as a teaser leg in this offense that has been fantastic.
Yeah. I mean, we're talking the number 2 EPA per play team in the NFL. And I know people don't want to like buy into the fact that Daniel Jones is really good. Daniel Jones is in the top of the metrics in just about every single one of the advanced stats categories that are out there right now. Even the eye test guys, the number 7 overall graded passer in the NFL right now, only behind dudes that are absolute ballers and Matt Stafford and Dak Prescott and Josh Allen and Justin Herbert. I mean, and then you're running into Daniel Jones. Like, that's the next name that you get to. And so,
can I ask you one more question about this game? Let's say Friday comes and we get news that Kyler's practicing, which signals he's probably going to play. Are you running to the book to take more than a touchdown if you can get to it in time? Because the Cardinals still with Kyler this year, 18th in EPA, 26th in success rate if you adjust for garbage time, which the Cardinals have had a lot of. So they still haven't been good with Kyler, but you would be getting a discount on the spread.
Yeah, no, I actually think this Cardinals team is borderline bad. So I'm not looking for reasons to back them by any stretch of the imagination. I think that I think we're looking at a really, 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 I'm not going to say that this is a make or break game for that squad, but
yeah,
it kind of feels like, Steven, this season could get off the rails if this goes sideways for them.
Well, you and I also always harp on you have to take the stats into context of the schedule they've played too, right? And I just told you those bad offensive stats. That's a sample of 3 games that included the Saints, Panthers, and Titans, and they're still that bad. And now they're playing the Colts, which obviously their offense is a lot better than their defense, but their defense isn't bad. So I tend to agree with you. I just need to see how this plays out with Arizona. I'll just take the Colts to win a game in a teaser leg.
I like it. The LA Rams and the Baltimore Ravens. This is 7.5 in favor of the Rams on the road at Baltimore. 44.5 is the prevailing total, though 45s are out there as well. we don't have to tell you the laundry list of injuries there for Baltimore, though. It does look like it's a little bit more promising than it was last week. It's still not good by any stretch, and Lamar's not going to be out there, but it's a little bit better, at least on the defensive side, than it was last week. But, you know, the Rams come to town here. I know they've pissed away a couple of games, but Matthew Stafford playing just at an incredibly high level, the number one quarterback through the league in the first 5 weeks. And, you know, it's just with this Baltimore team, the problem is, Steven, is you can't get anything going on the ground. Like, Derrick Henry is ineffective without Lamar out there. The Lamar factor is what opens up all the stuff for Derrick Henry. We talked about last week and taking the under on his rushing yards. We hit that with ease, I might add. And I'm thinking about just going back to the well again with that angle, because if we're looking at a team that any opponent is A-okay saying, you know what, Cooper Rush, go to town, buddy. If you can beat us, then more power to you. We're not letting Derrick Henry be the one that beats us. I'm pretty sure that's just going to be the strategy for these teams moving forward until Lamar's back in there.
You know, the market ratings, once it settled last week, basically made this version of the Ravens, if all the same guys are out, 27th in the league in terms of power ratings, which would still have them ahead of the Saints and the Panthers. And I'm not sure that's right. So I'm not sure I wouldn't take the Saints or the Panthers with their renewed competitiveness if this were to be played on a neutral. So I'm starting to wonder if 7.5 is still a good bet on the Rams, to be honest with you. Now, we really have to keep track of the weather in this particular game. This is one of the games finally to start this season where we start getting some weather involved. There is the chance for showers. We're looking at least in the early forecast, 13 to 16 mile per hour winds in Baltimore. If that happens, it might just be an under for me because the Ravens offense is already terrible, and you throw in wind and weather, I don't know what we're going to get. And we're still looking at a kind of a middle of the road total here at 44, 45.5. So that's a decision. Obviously you'd have to wait till closer to kickoff to see what's going on, or you can take a shot on hitting that under right now. I don't think you're going to get movement to the over with the weather situation. I'll at least say that.
70.5 out there for Derrick Henry as a rushing prop. It's just too high. It's too high until we see otherwise. You know, they tried to get Kyron Williams involved a little bit last week. He might start ciphering off some touches from Derrick Henry until they can get Lamar back out there and all of that. So
you mean Justice Hill
down the barrel of a 1-5 Ravens team here, Steven?
I think you said Kyron Williams by mistake, but you meant Justice Hill though, right? Or Keaton Mitchell?
Keaton Mitchell. I mean, yes. Keaton Mitchell.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with you though. Yeah, I mean, game log rushing totals for Derrick Henry after he had 169 yards week 1 in that crazy Bills game. 23, 50, 42, 33. 2.1 yards per carry, 4.2, 5.3, but only 8 carries because of huge negative game script. So that's the other factor you're fighting here with that rushing total. He might be efficient, but might not even get enough carries because they get behind so quickly. And then 15 carries for 33 yards against the Houston Texans. So yeah, I'm with you, man. You're kind of trying to thread a needle when your team's this bad and probably going to be playing from behind with that kind of rushing total.
And that's the other thing. He's off the field. When negative game script happens, he's off the field. And so like, that's the other thing. Like he's not even on the field to possibly get to your 71 rushing yards you need for him to get over, because he doesn't play a negative game script. Like they get him off the field. So really love that bet. Again, you can find that out there at a couple of the other books for Derrick Henry. Seattle on the road at Jacksonville. They are going to head in as 1-point dogs at some places. Well, we can find pick 1.
All sides of the 0. Yeah.
Yeah. We can find pick 1 and 1.5 out there right now. You can also find Seattle as a 1-point and 1.5-point favorite in this thing at 2 of the different books out there. So interesting the way that this game's played out. Of course, 0 is a nothing burger, but it's just interesting to see that we do have some disagreement in the market out there as to who the favorite is. 47.5 is our total here in this one. And, you know, Steven, they came up on the short end of it in that track meet, but I really liked what I saw from Seattle in that on the offensive side of the ball. They were down several defensive starters. I think if they have even a couple of those guys back, they win that game against the Bucs, and we're not sitting here talking about them losing a tough one, but really, being gritty and getting that thing done. They're going over to play a Jacksonville team in which defense is at least been pretty good so far. I don't know if it's real. I don't know if it's fake. You can only play the teams in front of you, but the offense certainly has left very little for me to be excited about in Jacksonville. I'm curious as to your take here, Seattle and Jacksonville.
Yeah, I think the Jags continue to be one of the more fortunate teams in the league with turnovers. I mean, they get a 99-yard pick six against Patrick Mahomes last week to kind of keep them in that game. They tried to have the turnover regression go the other way with Trevor Lawrence throwing a pick, but I just think at some point this is going to regress for the Jags defense with what they're doing on a play-to-play basis and a lot of their EPA being boosted up by these turnovers. They're number one in the league in turnover margin. So I want to play against that typically. And I agree with everything you said about the Seattle offense. I think they're cooking, man. I think they're doing a lot of play action with Clint Kubiak. I think we're starting to see with this offense, not starting, sustained at this point of what we saw the first 2 weeks of the season with the Saints last year before the offense was ravaged with injuries, both at offensive line and at quarterback. So Sam Darnold, to this point in the season, lowest number of turnover-worthy plays among all quarterbacks, despite that late pick against the Bucs last week that allowed Baker Mayfield to go win the game. And if you strip out all turnovers from every offense in the league, this offense is number one in dropback EPA, number one in dropback success rate, and 5% higher in dropback success rate than the number 5 team. So what's holding me back, at least for now, Matt, is the injuries on defense. Like you said, there's a lot of difference makers there. And I think that's why you saw the Bucs be able to move the ball fairly easily last week because of all those injuries. So I love the offense. I need clarity on this defense to help me decide whether I'm taking Seattle just at money line here, or if they're banged up, it might just be a teaser leg, but we might be moving out of teaser leg range at this point when we get clarity on the D. So decisions will have to be made, but I got to know about this defense and this injury report.
Yeah, to further kind of like pile on the offense there, number 4 in the NFL in explosive play rate. I mean, like their JSN has proven that he can be an absolute easy, yes, true alpha number 1 receiver. I don't think people were even remotely considering him as a true alpha number 1 whenever DK Metcalf was in town. He takes off, and then you're seeing JSN just absolutely explode and go nuts here whenever he's able to be the feature receiver for this team. I think Horton, and I don't know if it's this week, but I think Horton is going to start winning more targets and start winning more routes in this offense. And I'm not saying that Cooper Kupp is absolute dust, but he's dusty anyway. I'll put it that way, Steven. He might not be dust quite yet, but he's dusty at least. And so for me, you're starting to get these numbers for Horton that, like you've got, you're looking at it right there. I mean, you can find 21.5 out there in the market on his receiving yards. I mean,
yeah, I mean,
with a guy like him, you really don't need that many targets, and you certainly don't need that many catches to get to 22 yards.
100% agree with you. Now, it has ticked up a little bit. I remember we talked about him a little bit last week, or maybe it was a couple weeks ago. Regardless, within the past couple weeks, we've talked about Horton on this show. I think he was sitting around like 15 to 17. So there's been some adjustment to that, but it doesn't change the point you made that they've been throwing him at least one very deep target each week. And then they came back to him a couple more times on a regular basis last week in that shootout. He even found the end zone as well. He almost had 2 touchdowns in that game, believe it or not. There's one where if Darnold throws the ball a tick sooner, he's got him on an out route in the corner of the end zone. So he almost had 2 touchdowns, Torrey Horton last week. So while it's gone up, I do agree with you that he's an ascending player, more so than Elijah Arroyo that we talked about before, just because I think they like A.J. Barner, and he's still getting most of the snaps at tight end. But Torrey Horton is definitely in there in 3 wide receiver sets for sure. And I like what he brings. He's already shown that he can get some separation and get some chunk plays in this offense.
And Jack Smith and Jigba, the other guy, I mean, other side of that, I mean, it's kind of like 78.5, 79.5, something on Jackson Smith and Jigba. I talked about him being a true alpha. I mean, we've got yardage totals so far on the season of 124, 103, 96, 79, and 132. Steven. I mean, like he has proven that he can be the volume dude as well, because three of those have come on 8 or more receptions. The other 2 were on 4 and 5 receptions to get 79 and 96 yards. So, I mean, like he didn't even have to be the volume dude either to get to these big yardage totals. And if you think about what's going on there in Jacksonville, as good as Travis Hunter looked, maybe going up and catching that 50-50 ball and all stuff like that, he's been getting cooked on the defensive side of the ball. And they just traded away their starting corner for another corner who's going to come in and have 3 days to prepare before he takes the field here for Jacksonville. So I understand their defense has been pretty good. I don't think it's been good enough to where you can shut down a dude like JSN.
I'll take it a step further, Matt. I bet Jackson Smith and Jigba 20-1 to be offensive player of the year this week because of the extreme volume he's getting.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's basically on par with what you're seeing with Puka Nacua, but Puka Nacua is plus 250 and JSN is 20-1. And Puka has an injury history as well. So if you look at the rest of the board above Puka, Jonathan Taylor, deservedly so to be near the top of the board, but he's a running back and running backs get hurt more often. Christian McCaffrey has not been efficient. I'm not sure 6-1 is the right price for him. Even though he's getting a lot of volume, he hasn't been efficient with it. And who knows what happens if the 49ers quarterback injuries get even worse. Bijan Robinson, 6-1. We'll get to the Falcons in a minute here, but I'll explain why I have very serious questions about the efficiency of that offense. And then Amon-Ra St. Brown, he's always been a volume guy, but he's never been a huge, 1,700 yard guy. So I like this price on JSN. I can't shoot many holes in Amon-Ra St. Brown at that price, but I like JSN better if he's going to be getting like 10 to 16 targets a week, man. It's just huge volume for a receiver like this, and an offense that we just talked about is sustaining very high levels of offense.
Dallas Cowboys on the road at the Carolina Panthers. This thing opened at 3.5, and people took the hook with Carolina. It's down to 3 pretty much everywhere. 49.5 to 50 is our total. This Dallas offense has just been absolutely rocking and rolling. I mean, even without CeeDee Lamb out there, Steven, we are getting George Pickens decide that he's actually okay stepping into that wide receiver 1 role. And Dak Prescott, no matter what you want to say about Dak Prescott, and whether you think about him, whether you like him long-term or not, has been very, very good this year and has kept this Dallas team afloat by his high level of play so far. So, they're still a field goal favorite on the road, but are you surprised that it's only a field goal?
I'm not surprised people took the hook just because how bad the Cowboys defense has been most weeks. It makes it hard to cover by more than a field goal in a lot of cases, but I can't debate you whatsoever about this Cowboys offense. I mean, I will say the most surprising stat I found this week is the Carolina Panthers have the number 1 defense by success rate if you add a little bit of a garbage time filter on there, because their offense the first couple of weeks of the season put them in a lot of snaps in garbage time. If you just pop on like a 10% filter, remove all the plays where the Panthers had less than a 10% chance of winning that game, Panthers defense actually number 1 in success rate. Now, a lot of that is bolstered by their rushing defense. They're number 1 in rushing defensive success rate, only 9th in drop back success rate, and 20th in drop back EPA. So considering the Cowboys already have a bottom 5 rushing rate, if this is a pass funnel defense for Carolina, isn't that perfect for what the Cowboys have been trotting out there with a very pass heavy offense that has been explosive and efficient? This is the playing straight into what is the weakness of the Carolina defense. So I just need to talk it out with you and figure out like what's the better bet here. I'm probably off the Carolina team total just based on the angle of digging under the hood and seeing Bryce Young still is, average at best, even if you try and find the most glowing splits possible on him. So I'm not loving that. Also, the Cowboys play the highest rate of zone defense in the NFL this year, and Bryce Young has brutal splits against zone defenses versus man, not only in his career, but this year. So the question for me is, are we just playing an over here on the Cowboys game, or are we just scooping up this 3, considering it probably should be a little bit more based on where these teams have closed in recent weeks?
I mean, And we should say, as of this recording, CeeDee Lamb did not practice on Thursday. He has been out there. He just hasn't been practicing. He'll have one more shot to maybe give it a practice before he is officially ruled out, or maybe they'll list him as questionable or whatever. I am of the mindset I'm doubting he plays, Steven. So I'm kind of like going into this handicap that it's not going to be him out there. It's just going to be Pickens and Tolbert, and I guess Flournoy has made himself the number 3 receiver there in Dallas. I have fought putting the 3 in my account all week. I don't know why I can't do it. Maybe it's because that defense is as bad as it is, and I think Bryce Young's shown at least signs of life. It's Cowboys or pass for me. I think that's just the only way for me to play it.
Yeah, I tend to agree. And we do need clarity on the injury report, because it's not just CeeDee Lamb. It's a lot of the offensive linemen. It's a handful of guys on defense. So similar to the Seattle game, I need the final injury report on the Cowboys before I pull the trigger on laying 3 on the road here. That's for sure.
Chargers head down to Miami. They are 4.5 point favorites over the Dolphins. 43.5 is our total here in this one. They lose Amari Hampton, so they will be going to their 3rd and 4th string running backs for the Chargers. The offensive line is a mess. Man, you and I have done content together for a long time. I used to talk about a game that I wanted to put on a rocket and fire into the sun. I think this is the game for me, is this Chargers and Miami game. Just take it, put it on a rocket, fire it into the sun. I mean, I don't know what I'm going to get out of that offensive line with the Chargers. I don't know what I'm going to get out of Miami on any sort of regular basis. Is the weather going to play anything with LA going? I don't know. So just a very tough handicap for me.
It sounds like you're pretty confident the offenses are going to struggle in this game. And maybe that's why you want to fire it into the sun. And if that's the case, I'm surprised that you could still find a 44.5 here. It is juiced to the under. But that's intriguing to me, considering 44 is a key number in totals. You can still find 43.5s. I thought, given the limitations of the Chargers offensive line, which looked dead on arrival last week. I mean, Joe Alt is clearly a very big deal. Mekhi Becton still dealing with a hand injury. So this is a tough spot for the Chargers. Clearly it was a disaster after maybe like the first quarter against Washington last week. And, it's not like Washington has a great secondary either. So Justin Herbert splits man versus zone are stark as well this year. His completion percentage drops from 12th to 22nd when it goes from zone to man. So he's worse against man, 16th to 26th by passer rating, zone to man. Dolphins blitz at a top 5 rate in the NFL, which does not seem to line up well with what the Chargers are trotting out there in terms of an offensive line. Now, you and I both agree that this secondary is really bad for the Dolphins, but if the offensive line is not functional and Herbert's getting blitzed constantly and he's not good at completing passes against man coverage this year, that to me signals the Chargers offense is going to struggle again this week, potentially. I'm not saying they're not going to cover, or that because I still think the Chargers defense sets up really well against this Miami offense that clearly has to go dink and dunk and do long drives down the field without Tyreek Hill. Less than 5 yards per play against Carolina. Great start, completely melted down the rest of the way. Seems like an under to me. I'm waiting just for confirmation that all those guys are out still. Joe Alt in particular, it should be a multi-week injury as a high ankle sprain. But I'm waiting for confirmation on that offensive line for the Chargers. And it's probably an under for me if I get that confirmation.
Yeah. And I might end up slipping the plus 4.5 in my account on Miami. I think
only Dolphins on the spread for me. I would agree with you there.
Yeah. It's one of those things where I just don't see this. I don't know how this Chargers team is going to be able to get it done with the state of all this. I actually got asked this yesterday about why I care so much about offensive line injuries and whatnot. And I go, well, go to Sport Track where they keep all the contracts. And there's a reason why the stud offensive linemen are making $25 million a year, and their backup, like the swing guy, is making $2 million. And it's because the difference between, there are only so many humans on earth that are 6'6" and 330 pounds and are athletic and can move in the way that is necessary to keep a 6'4" dude who runs a 4.4 from getting to your quarterback and whatever. Like there's a very small amount of human beings on earth that can do this, and then doing it at a high level. Obviously, look at these offensive lines in the NFL. Look at what has happened in Cincinnati. Look at what has happened down in Houston. Like they're pro team. You can't find two guys on the offensive line who can play at a high level. I mean, it is such an incredibly important part. I would say as important or more important than any other position on the field outside of the quarterback position. And it's like you can get by with mediocre skill players if you have a good offensive line and a good quarterback. Like we've seen it time and time again, but you cannot do it with a bad offensive line. And the Chargers, you saw it last week. And I just, I'm not in love with what Miami brings to the table, but I don't think I don't know if you're going to even have to you don't have to have a ferocious pass rush, I don't think, to cause havoc.
The Bengals, why haven't they been better? I know they got to a Super Bowl, but when they lost all those offensive linemen and had to pay Joe Burrow, they haven't been good despite having the best wide receiver duo and an all-pro quarterback and MVP candidate every year when he's healthy. Part of the reason is because over the past 4 years, the Bengals offensive line has allowed the most sacks in the NFL despite getting blitzed at the lowest rate in the NFL. If you do not have a functional offensive line, I don't care if you have Jerry Rice on one side and Randy Moss on the other. Like there's going to be a decrease in what your offense can do.
Absolutely. New England Patriots head down to the Big Easy to take on the New Orleans Saints. They are 3.5-point road favorites over the Saints, a total of 45.5 to 46. I think this line is dead on. Like when it came out, and there's a reason I think it's stuck in the mud. When it opened at 3.5, it stayed at 3.5. I think it's just the right line. They should be on the other side of a field goal against New Orleans. It probably shouldn't ever get to 3, and if it does, it should get bought up like very fast. Very few times, Stephen, do I see a line and just go, yep, that's exactly what it should be. And I feel that like that's what I feel like here with this Patriots and Saints line.
Yeah, I understand why people would be interested in betting the Saints on, just kind of a come back down to earth angle on the Patriots. I know a lot of people like to buy spots and fade teams off a big, huge road performance. I just not my style of handicapping. I just kind of like to stick to the numbers and the matchups and what it shows to me. I landed on the Patriots here. It's not quite there now. The threes have been bought up. But like you said, I wouldn't be surprised if it goes back. It just bounces back and forth until kickoff here. So if you agree with me on the Patriots, then just wait for a -3, -120 to pop back up again. So let me tell you why. This is a rare situation where these two teams have played the same opponent in the same location in the past 2 weeks. They both played at Buffalo. And if we look at the closing spreads of those games, Saints were more than 2 touchdown underdog at Buffalo, and the Patriots were +7.5. So if the market was close to correct over the past 2 weeks against that same opponent, then on a neutral field, the Patriots are, even if you want to be conservative, 6 points better than the Saints. And I think we both agree that both of them have kind of outperformed a little bit the expectation. They both played well against Buffalo on the road. Even though the Saints didn't win that game. So if we're just using the market as an anchor here, if they're 7 points better on a neutral, I don't think this can ever get to 3, even if it's juiced. There's not enough injury situation here to warrant that. So I want to continue to lean into Drake May. I think the market, if it's correct from the past couple of weeks, tells me that I'm getting a bit of a good price here. I think Drake May is incredible. I think they're leaning into his talent and passing at a very high rate. I think if Christian Gonzalez plays again, it's an instant upgrade for this defense. And I think they have dudes on the defensive line now, unlike last year, that do make a difference when you're playing a bad offensive line and the Saints don't have a great offensive line. Milton Williams was a game wrecker for the Eagles last year alongside of Jalen Carter, and he's doing it again this year. We'll see about Barmore if he's going to be healthy for this one. But I just am arrow up on this Patriots team, and I'm not going to stop betting them if we're getting this kind of price against the team at the bottom of the league, even if it is on the road.
Yeah, me too. I mean, just Drake May. I think Drake May is going to be a guy in the next 3 years that we're talking about as maybe like an MVP candidate, as long as they continue to build around him. Everyone's talking about the revenge angle last week of Steph Diggs. I don't think it was a revenge angle or any of that nonsense. The dude's coming off a major injury. Like, he's going to be getting healthier the further he gets removed from this injury. And it was just like, we're now a month into the season. And so he's just feeling better, and has worked his way into the offense a lot more. And so I think this team is one to be reckoned with. The Saints dead last in the NFL in explosive play rate. So it's not even like they can't even score like on broken plays or fast play or anything like that. They're dead last in the NFL in explosive. I mean, they're worse than the Titans. They're worse than the Browns when it comes to explosive plays. I mean, like, there's never getting chunks. And if you never get chunks, if you always are operating 3 and 4 yards and 5 yards at a time, it's just damn near impossible to put together any sort of winning formula. And so I'm with you. I think the Patriots are a much, much better team. If you look at my power ratings, the Saints are second to last only to the Titans. And I have the Patriots borderline on the top 10 right now, Steven. So, I mean, this is obviously a huge, huge difference in what I think as far as like how good these teams are.
And whatever the Superdome home field advantage was in the Drew Brees era, it's just not that now. Like, you can buy a ticket to this game for $29.
Yeah.
I checked. It's just not the same home field advantage. It's decent, but it's not the same. Talent's not there. If it's a letdown spot, I'm just blind to that in my handicapping. I'm just going to continue to be blind to that. And maybe I need to learn about that more. It's just not for me.
San Francisco's on the road down at Tampa. They are 3-point dogs to the home Buccaneers, 47.5, the total pretty much across the board here in this one. Obviously, injury situation pretty big there for San Francisco. Does not look like Ricky Pearsall is going to make it back this week for them. It doesn't look like it's going to be Brock Purdy either. It looks like it's going to be Mac Jones again, but it's a compromised Mac Jones to the point where Lynch had to kind of pump that down a little bit today and be like, he's nursing some stuff, but he's going to be fine. So, this seems like where I would love to want to take the points here with San Francisco on the road, Steven, but man, it's just like, given that injury situation and until I can get some confirmation one way or the other as we record this on a Thursday, as opposed to after we get final injury reports on a Friday, I think I just have to sit back on this one.
I had to at least check real quick and see if anybody mistakenly posted a Mac Jones rushing prop with his one leg and his bananas on the sideline and looking like he's going to get his leg amputated and finishes the game. Like, we talked about the crazy outlier performance from the Titans last week. I mean, it wasn't that crazy. They played well, and it was great scheme, and Kyle Shanahan was awesome. Rams had some drops, missed a 4th and 1 in the red zone in overtime. So the Niners ran pure in that game, but they also performed very well. I don't know if I want to lean back into the Mac Jones, Kendrick Bourne experience again. I don't know if Mac Jones is healthy enough with 1.5 legs to start this week. Kyle Shanahan always plays coy with this stuff. Like, we won't know until Schefter tweets it at midnight, the day of the game, who's starting at quarterback for the Niners. There's just too many unknowns here. I will say this. I mean, first month of the season, we were talking about, is Baker going to come back down to earth with his turnover-worthy plays a team with a lot of injured difference makers on defense with Seattle and absolutely cooks them. I tend to skew more towards Baker's just legit, and this offense is going to cook the rest of the way as they continue to get healthy. But no Evans. Godwin missed another practice. It's really just Egbuka and Sterling Shepard at this point. They're still missing a couple offensive linemen, which didn't I will say this. Like, I thought it would matter more. Apparently, Tristan Wirfs fixes all concerns on the offensive line, because Seattle came in with an elite pass rush rate despite a low blitz rate, and it didn't matter against this Bucs offensive line. So if the Niners get bet and this moves to 2.5 and it's Mac Jones and Kendrick Bourne out there again, I'm probably just going to bet some Baker, to be honest with you. I understand why people would argue the 3 is valuable after what we just saw, but like, how many times can they do this? Especially when we know Kyle Shanahan has just had Sean McVay's number and this Rams defense's number for 5 years in a row now. He's like 9-2 against Sean McVay.
Yeah, I'm gonna throw something out to you here because I think we would both agree the Bucs are gonna win. The Bucs are gonna win the division. Like I don't see the Falcons coming out of nowhere to make a push, and we're definitely dead on the Panthers and the Saints in winning this division. So I'm curious as to what you think about a current number out there, 25-1 on the Bucs to win the Super Bowl. And you're making the bet under the assumption that health is going to come back around for them, right? I mean, you obviously need Mike Evans and Godwin and Egbuka and Tristan Wirfs, and like you need all these dudes out there for sure. But half of it is getting in the tournament to begin with, Steven. And like, I mean, we think they're going to win this division easily. And so like if there's no competition to winning the division, and so we pretty much are already putting them in the playoffs, having a team that we know is going to be in the playoffs at 25-1 to win this little small tournament that can be like, I mean, it's an oblong shaped ball and weird things can happen and all of this. Like, I don't know, of the prices out there of teams that I am pretty damn sure are going to make the playoffs, much less win their division. I think that 25-1 on the Bucs to win the Super Bowl is pretty interesting.
Man, I've been saying this for weeks. I said, I don't know what the entry point is. I thought they'd go on a little bit of a losing streak here. They pull that one out against Seattle. They should have beaten the Philadelphia Eagles, if not for a special teams blocked punt at the beginning of the game. Fully assembled, this absolutely has the potential to be the number 1 offense in the NFL. They have awesome pre-snap motion rates. This Grizzard guy's cooking with, not having a ton of tendencies. So I think this upside for the offense is to be the number 1 offense in the NFL. Then the question just becomes the defense. They're elite stopping the run. Nobody can run on this defense to start the year with Vita Vea in there. Like literally, even good rushing offenses like the Eagles have struggled to run the ball in there. So it just becomes the pass defense, right? And that's what I'm going to be looking at. But to your point, Matt, I mean, the Lions secondary is banged up. The Packers have been got a couple of times now in the past couple of weeks when they're on the road. I don't know what version of the Niners we're going to get. Who knows by the end of the year? The Eagles look like they've taken a step back. I think at price in the NFC, that would be the team I would click right now. I think it's a very fair price. I agree with you. I like some exactas with that too.
Yeah. Tennessee Titans on the road at the Las Vegas Raiders. The Raiders, yes, the same Raiders team that you have watched go out there and look like they don't know how to play football, are 4.5-point favorites at a lot of the books out there over this Tennessee Titans team. 41.5 is the total. Tennessee trips and falls and figures out a way to win a game and destroy people's hearts and souls in Survivor this past week in a game they never, ever, ever should have been. I mean, the guy, DeMercado doesn't drop the ball on the goal line, Steven. They might have lost that game by 50. And instead it just like completely changed the game all the way around. And Tennessee ends up winning that and scraping it out. That said, Brock Bowers is still banged up for Vegas. I think we've seen like the offense doesn't look right anyway, but it sure as hell, you look at what happened last week with him not out there, Mayer not out there with him as well. And they couldn't do a damn thing at all. And I don't know, it's 4.5's too rich for my blood for this Vegas team as currently constructed, even against the team that I have as dead last in my power ratings.
So we talked last week about looking deeper under the hood on the Titans and going into that game against the Cardinals. If you throw on just a little bit of a garbage time filter, worst offense since 2021 by EPA, worst defense by EPA, worst pressure rate allowed on the offensive line since 2021. And then that flukiness happens. Just to put another number on it, when DeMercado fumbled that ball at the goal line, they were still 97% to win that game at that point. So that still shouldn't have crippled them. It was just an all-time series of unfortunate events. So do I ever want to lay more than a field goal with Geno Smith with what he's shown, missing a key offensive lineman. Brock Bowers probably isn't going to play if I had to guess right now here on Thursday night. No, I never want to lay that. Do I think the Titans are still quite easily the worst team in the NFL? Yes. Even despite that comeback in the fourth quarter, Cam Ward finished the week with the worst completion percentage over expected of any quarterback in week 5. Like that, add another point to how it was crazy that he came back and won. So, and it's still a coach who needed that miracle to improve his record against the spread to 4-19. So this is the money line parlay with the Pittsburgh Steelers for me. Just two gross favorites that I'm not comfortable winning by margin, but against two opponents who, for different reasons, are just in a really bad spot. Like, to use the umpire phrase, they're butts in the jackpot, man. Like, I don't know how you thread the needle here. You just need turnovers and variance for teams this bad or in that type of situation to win. So it's a money line parlay at plus money. That's important for me. Found it at plus money, Raiders and Steelers this week. And I get to watch two gross games. Yay for me.
Geno Smith, 9 interceptions on the season, the most in the NFL. He is 1 more interception than Jake Browning, who just lost his job. 3 more interceptions than Joe Flacco, who is 3rd on the list, if that tells you anything. So, like, I mean, that's where we are with how bad this is. Leads, obviously, I mean, if we're talking about that, obviously leads the league in turnover-worthy plays and turnover-worthy play percentage, like all of the stuff like that. I mean, Geno's just been so god-awful, but
you're out in Vegas. They call him for the backup yet?
No. So apparently they are just sticking with Geno no matter what. They're sticking with Geno.
Well, they give $90 million. Well, it sure as hell ain't Kenny Pickett, man. We know that.
Yeah, I mean, so Geno's the guy. So we'll see. I mean, Geno's the dude there apparently for Vegas. If there was ever a game to get right, this would be the get right spot if you believe in all of that stuff. Cincinnati on the road at Green Bay. 14.5 in favor of Green Bay. 44.5 is your total. This is your slam dunk survivor spot of the week. You get Green Bay coming off a bye. You get Cincinnati, who's going to start a 40-year-old quarterback who's been with the team for 3 days. This is your dream spot here, your free square. You can plug it in and move on here if you have Green Bay available in your survivor pool. That said, not my style. We've talked about this before. Seems like not my style to bet these like 2 touchdown favorite NFL games, because I mean, you can literally be up 21 points in the fourth quarter and lose your bet because the team scores a garbage touchdown and then goes for 2 for no reason. And then the next thing you know, you've lost your bet. And it's just like, I don't know. Again, just not my style. So I'll just sit back and I'll probably have a couple survivor entries on Green Bay. So I'll at least be watching from that aspect.
If this ever moved to 13.5, I'd probably just bet the Packers, to be honest with you. All the entire rant you and I just went on about offensive lines, high Bengals offensive line. The defense is pitiful. Don't care that they have 2 great wide receivers. Packers coming off a bye. They're going to be able to get pressure with 4 and drop 7 against those wide receivers. I mean, this is just another blowout. I don't know how the Bengals stay competitive. So if people are interested, because it's a huge number, we get to 13.5 on game day, then I would bet it. I don't think it's going to get there, but you never know. There's been some weird stuff on game days so far this year. Other than that, survivor, my only pushback would be future value, obviously. And also 40% of the pool, it seems, is going to pick the Packers this week. Just rough projections looking at all the pools, which would mean that 40% or more, actually probably more than half your pool, won't be able to pick the Packers anymore after this week. And maybe a couple spots where you might need the Packers a little bit more than this week. So, but I agree with what you said. It's an easy free square. And if you don't mind the risk later on down the road, sure.
Yeah, I think our strategy after last week in Survivors changed a little bit, where I was trying to be a little bit off the beaten path, but now that the pools have just been decimated, I don't think I need to go wacky this week. And I can, like, the really the only time you're going to feel good about clicking Green Bay again, week number 9 at home against Carolina, but you also have the Rams at home against New Orleans that week. And so if I have to use Green Bay this week and then just use the Rams in week 9 with New Orleans coming to town, then I'll just do that, So that's kind of how I've that's kind of how I've planned things out. Full disclosure, I will be on Green Bay with 2 of the 3 entries. I'm pretty sure. Maybe that third one will be on Pittsburgh because I've promised myself that I'm going to go in 2 different directions this year and not shove all in on all of my on all my picks. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of how I look at it. I mean, now that these pools have been destroyed, I don't know if you need to be as cute anymore because we're only in week 6 and now we're back to where we were, a couple of years ago.
In Circa Survivor, you're not worried about saving them on the holiday against the Lions anymore because the Lions look good, I assume.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yes. Lions are my number 1 power rated team, by the way.
Right there with you, buddy.
Just to let you know. So yeah, I ain't messing with that.
Shall we talk about the number 1 team in our power rankings?
I mean, we might as well and go ahead and talk about this Detroit team on the road as a dog to the Kansas City Chiefs. Chiefs are 2.5 point favorites at home over Detroit. 53 is our total.
Hell
Steven,
yeah.
I don't know where you have landed on this one, but I don't even need the points. I don't care about the points here in this one. That said, just as a little cover my ass situation, I'll probably do the 75% of the bet on the money line and then 25% on the spread, just in case it's some sort of wonkiness or something. But I'm in love with this Lions team. Weird week 1. Outside of that, they have looked every bit the team that we saw last year. And I think Dan Campbell is just a stud. And it took me a little while to get around to that, but I think the dude's just a stud. He knows how to use his players right. And I think that Detroit goes in and makes a statement in this one.
I bet money line early. I shouldn't have. I would have gotten a better price at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Plus money's fine regardless here for me. I don't regret it all that much. What I will concede, the Chiefs are better than a 2-3 team. They had unlucky losses against Philadelphia and Jacksonville, in my opinion. The Lions have also been beating bad defenses. I will concede that as well. But I will just ask you in this game, is the Chiefs defense good? I do not think the Chiefs defense is good. I think even with the Lions injuries at cornerback coming into this game, I would still argue the Chiefs defense is the weakest unit out of the 4 in this game. Now, the Chiefs have also faced a fairly manageable schedule of opposing quarterbacks for their defense. Jalen Hurts, who's having a bad year, Russell Wilson. They got a quarter of Cooper Rush, and who knows how much more of a hurt Lamar Jackson in that game. Trevor Lawrence as well. We put these 2 defenses side by side. The Lions are 5th in EPA per play allowed. The Chiefs are 23rd. The Lions are 2nd in success rate defense. The Chiefs are 23rd. The Lions are 4th in drop back success rate. The Chiefs are 16th. The Lions are 5th in rush EPA defense. The Chiefs are 31st. The Lions are 7th in success rate allowed in the run game on defense. The Chiefs are 29th. And if the Chiefs are that big of a liability stopping the run on defense, on top of the issues we already have with their passing defense, can't the Lions run this straight down their throat with what is also this year a top 10 rushing offense and what has been over the past couple of years an elite rushing offense? So I just think that all the talk about the cluster injuries for Detroit is ignoring the issues that the Chiefs defense have as well. It's baked into the total. It's going to be a high scoring game. The market clearly sees both of these defenses have issues, but I just think the Lions defense has a much better pass rush to maybe cover up some of those cornerback issues.
Through the first 5 weeks of the season, PFF has the Detroit Lions as the number 3 run blocking unit in all of football. And if you go to rush defense and their grades over there, you will scroll down all the way to 26th before you run into the Kansas City Chiefs. And that is the big advantage here that I see for this Lions squad, which is, yeah, you got the 2-headed monster as it is anyway, but they get creative with how they use these guys. They have really, really good play calling so far. I mean, this is not a knock. Again, this is not a knock on Ben Johnson or anything like that. It's just, there's so much talent on this team that if you've got a guy that's capable, they're going to be able to find success. I mean, this is a really, really talented team. I mean, 2 top tier starting running backs, a absolute stud in Amon-Ra. You've got the dude that takes the top off in Williams. You've got a good tight end when you need him in Laporta. Like every single thing that you want from an offense, you're getting here from the Detroit Lions. And I'm with you. I think that there is a world that exists where they can bully this Chiefs team. I think they can just get these stupid 14 play, 6 minute and 12 second, drives or whatever, where they run the ball down their friggin' throat and Patrick Mahomes isn't able to just answer right back on them and stuff. And so I like the Lions a lot. Again, the number 1 power rated team in the NFL for me.
Yeah, I'm with you. Again, I will concede the cornerback injuries for the Lions, and Mahomes might be able to put up a lot of points here, but this still is not the fully formed Chiefs offense without Rashee Rice. And it's still, for the first time in the past couple of years, has to overcome a really big liability so far on the defense for the Chiefs. This is they're clearly, without argument, a below average defense and the worst unit in this game.
The number 1 3-and-out rate defense in the NFL through the first 5 weeks of the season is the Detroit Lions. And that is so incredible to be able to go in and make these teams you absolutely just defeat them. They run 3 plays, they cannot get a first down, and they got to punt the ball back to you, back to that offense, back to every single weapon that you've got on that side of the ball. And I mean, that's, I think that is something else that can really play a factor in this one. So again, I like Detroit a lot. Buffalo and Atlanta. This is 4.5 in favor of the Bills on the road down in Atlanta. Of course, the Falcons coming off of a bye. We have a 50-point total in this one. The Bills getting beaten at home by the Patriots. You're going to hear people say they're going to be angry. They're going to go in there and because they're mad and all of this. And it's like, okay, yeah, sure, whatever.
Bounce back spot, Matt.
Yeah, it's all of that. It's on the other side of a field goal, and it's well on the other side of a field goal here. Steven, what do you think?
Couple things. Over 49.5 is a bet for me in this one.
Mm.
I think we've seen enough at this point to wonder about the Bills defense. We saw warning signs against the Saints, and we saw the Patriots move the ball fairly effectively at 6 yards per play as well. If not for turnovers on both sides, that game would have been much higher scoring than it wound up being in the end. So I think the Bills in a dome are still a highly efficient offense, and we're talking about a Falcons defense that hasn't played a ton of great offenses to this point. They've faced Marcus Mariota, Bryce Young, JJ McCarthy. They faced one good quarterback week 1 in Baker Mayfield. So I'll pay to see that this is actually an above average defense like the metrics say. I think this is schedule adjusted for sure. I'm adjusting them down. So I think the Bills offense should move the ball fairly easily in this game. The other side of it is where I start to get maybe a little bit nervous. I do think the Bills defense is still struggling and needs to show us that they can be a competent defense before these totals should start with a 4, in my opinion. Again, the only reason it went under last week was because of turnovers. So I think the only concern I have in this matchup for the Falcons offense against a struggling Bills defense is the tendencies. Now, Ed Feng put this out a couple of days ago. I want to give him credit for it. First 3 weeks of the season, the Falcons offense ran the ball 72% of the time out of pistol and 87% of the time passed the ball out of shotgun. That is Mike McCarthy-esque telegraphing what you're going to do, run versus pass, based on the formation that you're in. Now, last game, they fired their wide receiver coach. They moved the offensive coordinator, Zach Robinson, out of the booth. They still ran 81% of the time out of pistol against Washington, increasing the rate at which they did that versus the first 3 weeks. So I am concerned that there's just a schematic element that is out of whack here. They made some changes and still were telegraphing run versus pass in that last game. So I think long term, that's my concern with this offense, that they're going to be playing with one hand tied behind their back. But I still think there's enough here in a dome and a perfect weather conditions to get us into 50+ points in this game.
Yeah, it's interesting. So the Falcons actually have blitzed at the highest rate in the NFL so far, and the Bills' offensive line has held up pretty well. This is kind of a something's got to give game here, where the Falcons, one of the things we hated about this team last year so much is they never got any pressure on the quarterback whatsoever. They're actually 8th in the NFL right now in pressure rate on the defensive side of the ball. And so that is pretty interesting to me. They're blitzing a ton and getting home with those blitzes. Can Josh Allen take advantage of that? Or will we see maybe some success and Josh Allen kind of, doing that thing where he runs around, and the next thing you know is throwing the ball out of bounds or taking a bad sack. And so it's a very curious game, very, very curious game for me. Not one that I have in the account, but I'm curious because apparently you're the same way as me. You've moved the Lions up to number 1. I know most people have kept steady with the Bills at number 1 in their power ratings out there. I think this could be a telling game for whether you want to keep them number 1 in your power ratings moving forward.
It's just a weird thing week to week with the Bills, right? Because they have such an easy schedule that they could coast to 12, 13 wins. And we might actually have questions about them just because the schedule was their only job, right? Big picture is just to stay healthy for January.
Yeah.
So there's going to be games where they don't cover the spread or have a down game like they did last week against New England. But their ceiling games are still going to be among the best in the league because they can score 30 points at will any given week. So I do think that, unlike some previous years where we've done shows together, Matt, that there isn't some dominant team at the top that everybody's chasing. I think we have a tier of 5, maybe 6 teams that are all pretty close together, and then a bit of a teardrop to everybody else. And it could be any one of those 5 or 6 teams if they stay healthy. But that's the name of the game here. Who's going to stay healthy out of that group to be a worthy favorite come January?
And then our second Monday, we got a doubleheader again. Second Monday night game is going to be Chicago and Washington. This is currently 4.5 in favor of Washington, a total of 50 there in that one. I mean, Steven, what's the handicap? We don't really know who's playing for Washington yet. And so it's just it's a weird deal for sure. I mean, are they going to get a receiver back? Are they not going to get a receiver back? How healthy is Jaden Daniels? All of those things factor into your handicap here, yet they find themselves well on the other side of a field goal here, favorite off this Bears team that's coming out of a bye.
That's the key for me. I think you might get a bump here in this Bears offense with Ben Johnson getting some extra time to, get his new pieces ready to go and kind of reset for the rest of the season. You see that a lot with new coaches working with quarterbacks over the past couple of years. And also, I think what we saw from the Bears defense has to be acknowledged, that they were missing a lot of key players in those games. And we have to monitor the injury report coming out of this bye to see how many of those key defensive players, beg your pardon, are going to be back for this game. So if it's a pretty clean injury report on the defensive side for Chicago, and we don't get final injury reports until Saturday for these Monday games, so we have to wait and see. But if it's pretty clean on defense for Chicago, I'm going to be interested in taking the points here on Chicago coming out of the bye, because I at the very least know that they're probably going to get off to a good start, even with some of the ups and downs that Caleb Williams has shown. This team has been among the 5 best in EPA on scripted plays to start games, the first 15 plays. So I think my number is going to get better probably in all likelihood once the second quarter starts here, if we're looking at the pregame line versus the live line. So, maybe make some decisions live after that. But I do want those points in my pocket before kickoff.
I think one of the other interesting things to me, just specifically with this Bears squad, you can let me know whether you think that maybe I'm reading too much into this, but there's still like a lot of love for DJ Moore in this offense. And really, I think Rome Odunze has proven that he is unquestionably the number 1 receiver there, but Odunze is still not getting really priced like the number 1 guy. 4.5 receptions is his reception total, which again, that's just not where you line a number one receiver. I mean, for example, JSN, we're talking about him is 6.5 and it's juiced towards the over, all of that. So I think we can start to look at Odunze a little bit here until the books really catch up on his role here in this offense.
I agree with you. I think he was already emerged as the number one before the bye week, and I think that's only going to grow as a second-year breakout player with a mastermind of an offensive head coach. So no pushback from me on that angle, that's for sure.
All right, guys, Thursday night football going to be kicking off here in about a half an hour. It is the Philadelphia Eagles and the New York Football Giants. It is 7.5 in favor of the Eagles on the road. 40.5. We have seen a 41 hit and a 41.5. Okay, so a little bit of over money coming in here as we approach kickoff. No real surprise with that, as a lot of standalone games we do see some late over money come in, but starting to see those 41s pop, and like I said, even 141.5 out there in the market as we sit. Jackson Dart takes the field without Malik Neighbors and Darius Slayton, so that is kind of how I am going to be handicapping this game here, Steven. I like this one more as a prop game than I do necessarily from a side or total standpoint, but I want to tell the story of the Eagles leading this game and the Giants having to play from behind. And so I played Jackson Dart over rushing. I played Bo Collins over his receiving yards because, again, if you're having to throw and come from behind, you don't have these other guys out there. You can't throw to Rondell Robinson every single time. And so Bo Collins, you can find him as low as 13.5 out there in the receiving yards market. And Steven, there were a couple of beat writers who thought Bo Collins might even run in 2 wide receiver sets at some points in this game. And then Cam Scatabo as well. I know Tyrone Tracy is coming back for this game, but Tracy is not a pass catcher. Scatabo is actually one of PFF's highest graded pass catching running backs so far through the short season, small sample size that we have. Tracy being one of the worst actually in the league at pass catching. So if I'm telling the story here, and the reason you're going what's the deal with the Dart rushing yards? Well, if you guys have watched his first 2 starts, what Jackson Dart has done is he drops back and he's pretty good about getting to a second read. He ain't getting to a third read. If that's not there, he's gone and he's taken off. And he's a pretty athletic guy. And I think that we get maybe even a couple of designed runs to go along with 4 or 5 different kind of again, you drop back, you look, no one's there. There's a hole, I take off type situation for Jackson Dart. So that's how I'm playing this one. I'm just telling the story of a Giants team that's going to have to fail. Jackson Dart has to drop back more than maybe they wanted him to. And that equals some scramble yards and some passes to Scatabo and Collins.
I like those angles. Another angle I want to talk about, maybe not necessarily for pregame, but something to fire live if we get a better indication once the game starts. Tyrone Tracy is back and healthy in the backfield for the New York Giants after missing a couple, and Cam Scatabo getting to be the bell cow for a couple of weeks. And from the searches I conducted, I didn't see any clear indication of whether one or the other would be the dominant ball carrier in this game or get a dominant snap count. So I think it's to be determined. If Tyrone Tracy is the starter and on the field for the first drive, then I think that's at least an indication that this is back to a 50-50 split at worst, maybe even more than that for Tracy, but ceding goal line work to Scatabo because he's bigger. So there's a couple of angles here I'm looking at. Number one would be his receiving yards because he's a converted wide receiver. The Giants are missing some wide receivers, obviously, in this game with Malik Neighbors and Darius Slayton. So it might be some more dump offs there. And we're looking at a receiving yards total that's been bet down from about 12.5, 13, all the way down to about 9.5, 10. So I don't know if that is the market getting some indication that maybe he is still the backup here, but it's something to monitor live, because if this was the line week 1, based on the snaps that each of these 2 running backs played for the Giants, it's wrong. And Tracy should be the one with the higher numbers coming into this game. So that's one thing I want to monitor very carefully. It could lead to a very good live betting opportunity at books that offer live props. Any reaction to that? Have you seen the same thing, that it's unclear in the backfield going into this one?
Yeah, I don't know who's going to get the rushing attempts. The reason I just bet Scattaboo on the receptions is he's just he's the receiving guy that I think that they're going to utilize more in the 2 minute, 4 minute, and if they're just trailing and stuff like that. So like that's why I went with him there. But as far as like actual rushing stuff, no, I don't know who's going to get the bulk of the work there with that.
So let's look at the rushing yards numbers real quick. Scattaboo anywhere between 46.5 to 50.5, and Tyrone Tracy way down at between 20.5 and 23.5. So yeah, maybe that is the angle more so than the receiving yards for sure. Because I agree with you, Scattaboo profiled as a very good pass catcher coming out of college. So if it's a true split backfield, Jalen Carter is out for this game. That number's too low on Tyrone Tracy, I would think.
Yeah. What do we believe the squeaky wheel narrative at all with the AJ Brown stuff, or like what do we, because again, I mean, they tried a little bit last week to get him involved. It didn't really work out all that much. He's down to 67.5 yards as far as his prop goes. I know he hadn't sniffed that, but I mean, this is a actual true wide receiver one in the NFL. It's just they haven't thrown the ball downfield hardly at all and haven't really tried to take advantage of utilizing him that way. Do you at all think this is a try to repair the relationship spot for AJ Brown, or do you think that they don't really care? They just want to keep winning games. They don't care if they win them flashy or not, and they just move on.
I don't know how real these rumors about like them having a falling out in the offseason are or not, but in terms of the football field stuff that I've seen with my own eyes, Jalen Hurts has struggled to throw the ball accurately again when pressured. The deep ball has not been there, even though there have been some opportunities. I will say this, the Giants play one of the highest rates of cover one man defense of any defense in the NFL. And A.J. Brown typically has been very good against man defense. You can't cover that guy one-on-one for the most part. If we look at his history against this Brian Daboll Giants team, because we have it over the past 2 years, he missed one of the games, so he played 3 games, 5 for 89 and a touchdown, 6 for 80, no touchdowns, and then one game where I think he got hurt in the game, only played 19% of snaps. So the 2 games where he actually had full snaps, 5 for 89 and a score and 6 for 80. So my only concern, Matt, would be Landon Dickerson's out on the offensive line. The pass pro numbers we've seen have taken a step back, and this is still an elite defensive line for the Giants. Obviously, I think it's probably the best unit in this game, to be honest with you, with what the Eagles have shown. So I'm kind of confounded by it, to be honest with you, by all of it.
I'll tell you a thing that I never bet, which I actually considered with this one, is they do like first quarter receiving yards, and his is at like
script,
15.
right?
Yeah, his is at like 15, and like my whole thing would be, like, do they try to just get him involved early to make sure he doesn't just check out mentally? You know what I'm saying, in the game? Is it kind of like, hey, we definitely force feed him a couple of times and on that first drive or something? So that was
SharpStack has it, buddy. Here's your first quarter receiving yards for AJ Brown. How sick is SharpStack?
Yeah, see, look at that, 13.5, right? I mean, 14 yards. Oh, you can find 13 right there at FanDuel.
Yep, 12.5. So I think that might be one catch, right?
That's what I'm saying. Like, can't we imagine a world where they just don't want a pissed off AJ Brown standing on the sideline? So they're just kind of like, okay, we're going to throw in the ball twice on this opening, whatever, and just chill him out a little bit. Yeah.
Or he's going to go back to reading books and meditating on the sideline again. Right. So I agree with you. All of this, right? Even the props just have to go back to the debate that we introduced at the beginning of the show of whether you're sticking to the priors on the Eagles because they faced a pretty tough schedule to start the year, and this is a huge step down in class to the Giants, with the exception of the defensive line that the Giants have, or if you're coming off those priors of the Super Bowl champions and taking them for what they've actually put on the field. We were right to bet against them last week with the Denver Broncos. They got out to a big lead and couldn't hold it. So that's the crux of this. I'm kind of in between and I don't have a good answer for it. One thing that I've always loved to bet into is that step down in class, Matt. I don't know if the Eagles should be 7-point favorites in this game with what they've shown on the field, but I firmly believe this is a huge step down in class from what the Eagles have faced through the first month of the season. So I think I'm still comfortable with the teaser leg. But man, that Jalen Carter injury looms large for me in the back of my head. The Giants might be able to move the ball a little bit better than I would have liked because they already were rough with a pass rush. And now you take Jalen Carter out of there. They lost Milton Williams in the offseason. I still think the Eagles win this game, though. And I'm going to take the teaser leg. And I'm going to pair it up with the Broncos in that early international game. So by 1 o'clock on Sunday, I will know whether I'm in the black or the red before the games even start and can figure out some adjustments from there. So we'll take the Thursday and the London kickoff for a teaser for me.
Yeah, it is. It's super interesting, right? Where we look and we analyze, and try to figure out like what works, what doesn't, and all of this. And then like you get to a deal and go, and still, who the hell really knows? like who really knows what the hell is going to go on in all of this? I will say the only other thing that was at least somewhat interesting to me is most receiving yards in the game. They have AJ Brown, the heavy favorite in that, though. If you look at the projection systems out there, the projection for AJ Brown and Devontae Smith and Wan'Dale Robinson are all within like 5 or 6 yards really of each other. Yet AJ Brown's plus 140 for most receiving yards. Devontae Smith is 3-1 and Wan'Dale Robinson's plus 475. And there's a world that exists where the Giants get down 2 scores in this game and throw every single down, and Wan'Dale Robinson ends up with 100 plus in this game. Like that is not crazy at all. And again, if you look at the projection systems, most of them have him, within 7-8 yards of AJ Brown as it is anyway.
100% agree with you there from the positive versus negative game script angle. And also the angle that the Eagles passing offense has been rough. There've been a lot of people that have given out under Jalen Hurts passing yards for this game, just because of his inability to consistently throw the ball to start the year. So, what you've said in previous weeks, right, Matt? Multiple ways to get to the bet that you're hoping to cash. Paint yourself a couple of different paths to get to that. And I think that's a fair point on Wan'Dale Robinson for sure. What about Theo Johnson as a longer shot in that market?
I mean, it's not crazy. I'll put it this way. We're just talking, our friends at 4for4, they do projections each week. They have Devontae Smith and AJ Brown a yard apart, in
the 50s.
And like have them a yard apart, and one guy's plus 140, one guy's 3-1.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen this the past couple of years of the Jalen Hurts era. You don't know any given week which one of those two is going to be the leading receiver for the Eagles. So that's a fair point for sure. If we look at tight end projections here, I mean, obviously Theo is going to be down the list here, but he's projected for more than 3 catches and 30 yards. And we know the middle of the Eagles defense is probably where they're weakest in terms of talent. They spend most of their dollars on the back end and the front end of that defense. And he had 6 receptions last week in that Saints game. Didn't go for many yards, but 6 receptions, and he looked for him twice in the end zone with 2 touchdowns. So you take Malik Neighbors out of the mix, could be anybody for the Giants.
Yeah, absolutely. Guys, again, sitting 7.5 out there. So enjoy the game. 40.5, 41 is our prevailing total. Like I said, I'm looking more at the props here in this one. And of course, remember, we got to wake up early. We got that game going on over there in London on Sunday morning between Denver and the Giants. If you haven't done so already, again, TNF Live to try out SharpStack. That's going to get you 7 free days, also 25% off there at SharpStack. And if you live anywhere in the neighborhood, if you haven't checked out the new Circa Sportsbook there in Kentucky, you got to make the trip. Get down there on a Thursday, get down there on a Monday, go on a Sunday, whatever it might be, take in all of the action. It's an awesome addition to that part of the country. And I get it, fortunately, every week when I roll down the road or whatever. But now it's brought over there to you, Stephen. I'm glad that you get to experience it as well.
It's awesome, man. It's there's good food here too. Like that's the other thing. It's one thing to build a sports book, but if the food's bad, like you don't want to stay. Food's awesome here. Love it. Obviously got the beers. I'm gonna go watch a doubleheader here, man. I got the Phillies on. I'm sweating, trying to keep my season alive. We got a pitcher's duel out in LA as we speak right now.
There we go.
Eagles game after that. And then, drive back home to Louisville. But enjoy doing this every week with you. Enjoy everybody. Thank you so much for watching. Hit the like button if you're watching on YouTube. Goes a long way to helping us get the show out to more people. And again, check out SharpStack if you haven't yet. Matt and I use it literally every day of the football season.
Good luck on all your bets out there, guys.